Hi.
Hi, Nathalie. Hi, Nathalie. We thought that we'll never get over losing you on Game of Thrones because your performance is just etched in our mind. But luckily, we got you for this so clever and so hilarious Die Hard. And, you know, with Kevin Hart and John Travolta. And you're holding your own against those two giants. But I'm sure you don't want to talk about it because it probably was a boring shoot, right?
So boring. I mean, I basically slept all the way through it. No, it was, oh wow, it was such a joy, such a fun one, and really unexpected. It kind of happened quite last minute, and it was like, suddenly I was in Atlanta with Kevin Hart and John Travolta.
Oh my God.
You know, it's sort of,
I know.
it blew my mind a bit. It wasn't until actually I got home and it was about a week later and I like phoned my mum and went, I just did a thing with Kevin Hart and John Travolta. Like, it was crazy. But
yeah.
Great.
Well, you know, with Kevin and John Travolta, it's just kind of over the top in the way that is just so amazing. But before we have a lot of question about that series and your work in it and other work. But before, we want to know, how did you start in the business?
Wow. I don't really know. I do know, like I actually just got into performing arts and dancing, singing, acting. It was just like a fun hobby. Like my mum wanted my sister and I to have you know, extracurricular activities, and it was really just like a fun thing to do. And I was quite a shy kid, and so, you know, going to dance, going to acting classes and all of that kind of helped me build confidence away from her. I am still a huge mummy's girl, so, you know, like being away from her was so traumatic as a kid, and she was like, I need to do something about this child. Like, she keeps like breaking down every time I have to leave her anywhere. So the sort of dance classes, singing, acting, it sort of helped me come out of my shell a bit. And then it just was this fun thing that we did. And like, we used to have this newspaper in England called The Stage. I don't know if it still exists or if it's just online now. And they used to post like auditions for shows, for commercials, for, you know, TV shows. It was crazy. You'd like look through it, and my mum would circle ones that weren't like too huge commitments because she was quite particular about school. So she was like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. Or no, not really feeling that. And then it became this sort of thing we did when we wanted to. And then, yeah. And then I guess the sort of turning point for me was when I got cast in the stage show, The Lion King, when it first moved to London. I was like 10 years old in this like huge production with all these incredible people. Like Julie Taymor was there to teach us the show, Le Bohème, and all these incredible artists. And I think that's when I went, oh wow, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to be in something, like keep doing this. It's whatever this feeling is, I want to keep doing it. And then, yeah, and then I just went for auditions when they didn't interrupt school too much. And then and then I sort of got my big break, so to speak, in the UK when I was 17, and I went and did a TV show. So that was pretty cool. And now I'm still here somehow.
I know. Yeah, with no skills and talent and beauty to show. Yeah, very strange.
Oh, thank you. I mean, listen, that's very sweet of you, but honestly, like that is no guarantee in this game. You know, so I don't take it for granted that I'm still, you know, people still want to hire me, still want to work with me. So yeah, because there's a lot of very, very talented people who just, you know, aren't getting to work in the way that I am and have the career that I've had. So yeah, I kind of count my lucky stars every day. So
beautifully said. I wanted to ask you about the Quibi shooting, because, you know, it's unique. Did you shoot it all in sequence? How long did it take you to shoot it?
It was a 4-week shoot. Obviously, just like anything, you know, we try and shoot as much as we can in one location, and it's sort of dictated a little bit by weather and availability of places. So you know, there was definitely like, we shot, you know, based on where we were and where we could get on any given day. So we definitely didn't shoot in order. So yeah, that's always quite challenging, but I think there was such a kind of, the script was so great. I mean, I remember reading it and just like laughing so much. And it was quite funny actually, because I was on my way to, I was in Los Angeles and I was like on my way to a meeting and I had about an hour to kill. And I thought, oh, let me just have a little flick through that script that I got in my inbox earlier. And I phoned my agent within the hour. I just was like, guys, we've got to do this. This is fantastic. And it was so like self-explanatory and sort of like the way that the show was structured, like the writing was just so brilliant. And so it was quite clear for me quite quickly how to sort of map this character and some of the choices I made. I was like, oh, that might be fun. And it kind of inspired ideas for me. So it's always challenging shooting out of order, but I feel like Jordan was such a fun kind of challenge for me. And I was like, I was kind of really into it quickly. So it kind of helped. And Kevin and John as well were just so straight away, we're just so, you know, committed and like really embraced me. And we just became this little trio that just kind of fit quite quickly, and it was great.
Yeah. And you had stunt people, but you also had to learn at least the choreography of the moves, right?
I had to learn all the choreography.
Was it fun? Is that something?
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's hard though, like on your body. Like after doing the same move a few times on one side, like suddenly you're like, okay, my shoulder is really aching. And then the next day you're like, why am I like lopsided? Because you only do it on one side all day as they get all their angles. But actually the stunt team are incredible, and shout out Deandra, who was my stunt double. She made me look so badass. And Walter as well, he was our stunt coordinator. And basically I was never really fighting say Kevin or the person that I was fighting, because basically when the camera is on me, on my face, like I'm doing all of that fighting, and when it's on the other person, like they're usually fighting my double, and it's just so, you know, like it's a bit safer for the actors, because the stunt guys are so great at reacting. If you throw like a wrong punch, like their whole thing is like being able to move. And so if I throw a wrong punch or Kevin throws a wrong punch, it might get a bit messy. So we worked very closely with the stunt team. Like I mostly fought Kevin's stunt double and he mostly fought mine, but there was a couple moments where we had to do some stuff together, but yeah, we really it was very much like a partnership in that respect. But all the very dangerous stuff, I was more than happy for Deandra to do.
I want to open it up to the student because it's really for them. I could chat with you for hours, but it's really for them. So Mike, can we take it from here and see if we have questions?
Yeah, we have a question here from Grace Ward, a student from New York. Grace, we've enabled you to start your microphone. What is your question for Nathalie?
My first question is, what is the biggest thing you look for in scripts when deciding about your roles and parts? Like, what are some of the key attributes and what inspires you, excites you about a script?
The first thing, I will always read a script through, and I guess I look for aspects of the character that firstly like I understand and can relate to, and stuff that, you know, I'm like, oh, that's really challenging. I always look for the challenges, really, things that I'm like, oh, that's going to be quite fun to try and discover and find. But really just like as a woman of color, I always just want to see that these characters are being written in a rounded, authentic way and not in a sort of superficial, tropey way. So that's the first thing. I'm like, is this like tokenistic, or is this, you know, interesting? And it's always fun for me, like, to play people who are complex and, you know, not all good or all bad or all just one thing. So I like to see some variety in the, you know, in the character's journey. And I guess I ask questions like, what else can I bring to this? How else can I kind of feel out or expand this character beyond what's on the page? And do I think that's exciting? You know, and if it sort of stirs something in me, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Or maybe we should pursue this further. But just generally, it's always fun for me to play kind of badass women, because it's just fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we actually have one more question from Grace while she's unmuted. Grace, you can go ahead with your second question.
Okay. Thank you. What's the best experience you've ever had with a specific director, and why? And what is the biggest thing a director can do to really help you as far as communication goes?
Okay. Oh, great questions. One of the best experiences I've had with a director, it was with Mark Mylod on Game of Thrones. I mean, I'd worked with him a number of times before in previous seasons, but during the scene with Grey Worm and Missandei, when they finally acted on their love, he just took the best care of us. And, you know, we went into rehearsal, and essentially he did with us what a intimacy coordinator would do, where we established what our boundaries were, what we didn't want to do. You know, he gave his ideas, and then I would be like, oh, I'm not comfortable doing that, or I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And the same for Jacob. And he just was so respectful and so wonderful, and really just helped us bring out the kind of beauty of that scene, and the sort of like, oh, all that, like, we'd really earned this moment. And he treated it with so much respect, and treated us with respect as actors, and obviously the people having to do this very intimate scene. And you know, it just really was for such a challenging scene, for the obvious reasons. Like, I felt incredibly safe, and it was also just testament to my relationship with Jacob, and he was our relationship as friends and colleagues. Like, we just kind of had each other's back. And then it was just really, we were so happy when we found out that Mark was directing that episode, and we were like, oh, it's in the perfect hands. And it really, really was. And he just was so wonderful. And yeah, I couldn't have asked, because that was the first time for me doing a scene like that. And so for me, I just was like so grateful, and like I was so proud of it when I watched it, and I was like, thanks Mark, and thanks Jacob. But that was really special. And in terms of communication, like, I just need people to tell me what's what. Like, I realize that often in this business with actors, they sort of treat us like we're like these fragile things that you can't be told no, or be told something negative. I'm just kind of real, and I just want to know, like, what do you need? Like, you don't have to worry about upsetting me. Like, as long as people talk to me respectfully, I don't really mind what the note is. You might say to me, yeah, Nathalie, I'm not really feeling it. I'm not really feeling what you're doing. I think that we need these things. And like, when it's laid out to me in a clear way, and like, even if it's negative, even if you don't like what I'm doing, like, people are allowed to tell me that. I don't, because I think that a set is such a safe space. It's such a sacred space. And, you know, like sometimes you have to work stuff out. Sometimes people have to kind of get upset and get frustrated and then find something else, find a new way through. Like that's part of the challenge for me as an actor. I'm not afraid of those situations, although, you know, like we're all human and we have emotions, and I'm a sensitive soul just like anybody. But I really hate when people don't tell me the truth and tell me like it's not working, because, you know, at the end of the day, like I'm the one that's on camera and my director is I guess in a way like I'm sort of tethered to them. I'm really looking for I'm an actor like that really wants to hear my director and their thoughts and their feelings and let me know straight up like what's up and what's not working, what is, and blah blah blah. So yeah, for me, just being honest and being respectful, you know, and that's it really. I don't know if it's quite simple, I think.
Great, thank you. We have a question here from Maria Colasanti from our New York campus. Maria, we've enabled you to start your microphone. What is your question for Nathalie?
Hi, I just typed it out. Do you have any advice on handling those situations that you're describing? Like, what if you can't get to the place that they're asking you to get to? You know what I mean?
I mean, of course, how do you handle those situations? I think at the end of the day, it's about compromise, you know, and sometimes something just isn't working and you just have to be open to trying something else and stepping outside maybe what you perceived the scene to be, or that moment to be, or that line to mean, or whatever. So I don't know. I think it's about it, because often I think as actors we can get so connected to a character, so it almost becomes a part of us, that sometimes when people can say something, you know, like, no, that's not what I was doing, you know, and actually to double down, I sometimes, you know, there's always opportunities where you need to fight for your character, but like I think that sometimes when it feels like there's so much of a wall there that maybe you just need to try something else, and that's like you just have to try and practice openness and practice taking a new route, and hopefully you will find somewhere that works for both of you. But kind of getting frustrated and angry and defensive, I just generally in life, I don't really feel like that's particularly productive and doesn't really encourage like creativity, like particularly. It's kind of like, it can sort of, kind of stop the flow. And so I try to, with breathing and, you know, like try and kind of be like, okay, I'm trying to listen, I'm trying to be open, and that's all I can really do, and I guess hope for the best. So.
Thank you for that insight. We have a question here from TJ Mannix, an instructor from New York. We've enabled you to start your microphone, TJ. What's your question for Nathalie?
Well, thank you so much for being here. My question has to do with green screening. And I don't know if this was your first experience working with green screen and how much you had to do that, but I'm just curious about how you were able to remain grounded in the reality of the scene while you were working against green screen for these epic backdrops.
Are you talking specifically about Die Hard or about?
Maybe more Game of Thrones.
Oh, okay. Well, the thing about green screen is you just, okay. So, you know, when you're a kid and you're like, let's play dragons and knights, and you're like, oh, we're like on an adventure. And like, this is basically all that imagination work that we just have as a kid. Like, you get to do that in front of a green screen. So you can't see, like they might show you a previs of like what kind of the scenery will look like, but often you're using your imagination, and it can be quite challenging at times, especially in the place where I probably find it the hardest is in the Fast and Furious movies, because, you know, you're in a car often that's in a sound stage that's surrounded by blue or green, and they're like, and then you, on the left, there's a huge explosion, and you're like, ah! Like, there's not really. So I don't know what it feels like to have a huge explosion happen right next to me. So it is really just like using your imagination and just going for it. Actually, you just have to kind of go for it. And often you've got the director being like yelling stuff at you to add to the like energy of it. So yeah, but the fun, there's also really fun times where you've got, like, for example, in Game of Thrones, before the dragons were very big, once the dragons got very big, there was just kind of this poor guy with a green ball on the end of a stick, just kind of running in the distance, and we all had to follow it. And it's not quite as like to look at this poor guy running as fast as he can with this kind of green lollipop. It's kind of funny, but we have to play it like, oh wow, there's a dragon. So yeah, it's fun. Like, I enjoy it. But in Die Hard, obviously, you see this ridiculous scene that we did in front of green screen, and yeah, I think that was probably my most unprofessional day on set, because I could not stop laughing because it was so ridiculous, the whole thing. And but again, a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. It's always fun.
Excellent. We have a question here from Alina from our LA campus. I will go ahead and ask her question for her. Okay. Some technical difficulties, but she says that you are so natural on screen, and is asking, what are some of the things that you do to connect to the characters you play?
I think for me, preparation is key. I do lots of work kind of before we even get to filming, you know. It's like all that character work, you know, figuring out in any scene, like, what my character's like intentions are, and literally per line, I'm quite like methodical with it. I'm like, why is she saying that line? Why is she doing that thing? Mapping their journey throughout the entire story, understanding how they feel about the people they're interacting with or the situations they're acting with, and just sort of knowing this person in and out as much as possible. And because I think when you know your lines as well, I think once you know exactly what you have to do, like from the script, and that gives you a confidence to kind of play and like relax into it. I always feel like there's this moment where like the lines and the ideas kind of drop in the body, literally physically. I feel like this person's voice, this person's movements, like it becomes second nature. And you know, sometimes it can be inspired by like music, or sometimes it's as simple as just putting on their clothing, or I don't know, it really depends on the part and the day as well. But yeah, I think for me, like preparation and making sure that I really understand the scene and that I'm about to do, and just like the character as a whole and how they feel about the world and the people around them. Like once I know all of that and I've done that kind of work, it kind of helps me connect to them quicker. But there has been, you know, in a sort of more technical sense, like if I've been doing an accent, for example, there is a real benefit for me when I just like stay in accent all day, because in a way, like I'm kind of staying in character. So I'm not like the person that's living as this, like I'm not like that method where I'm living as this character for 3 months, but I think it's just really useful for me to sort of stay somewhere close to who and how they speak, who they are and how they speak, so that when the cameras start rolling, I'm not reaching really far to access them again, like after lunch or something. You So that for me is just like in a more kind of simple, like technical sense, that's something that I find really useful. And my mum often, she'll phone me at work and I'm like in a different accent. She's like, oh, you're at work. And I'm like, yes, or whatever. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. We have a question here from Courtney Jordan from our LA campus. Courtney, we've enabled you to start your microphone. What is your question for Nathalie?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I was wondering what the process was like to audition for something, especially as big as like Game of Thrones, which has to be like the biggest TV show of all time. What was that like?
Wow. What was that like? For me, I had been harassing my agent about Game of Thrones. I was like, so there's this show, I just really want, if there's ever anything I'm right for it, you have to let me know. And so when I got that audition, I phoned her up and I'd seen it on a casting site and I was like, Joe, like to my agent in London, I was like, Joe, she went, I've seen it, you've got an audition on Wednesday. And I was like, yes. And it was all just like very exciting. And then the like reality dawned on me and I was like, okay, this is a show you really like and you really want this and you can overthink it and then like freak out and then just completely sabotage yourself. So like I said, I just like did as much research as I could. I hadn't kind of got into the books yet, so that's not true. I'd read book 1 at that point, and so I hadn't met Missandei yet in the book, so I went online and the fandom really helped me with all the breakdowns of all the characters from all the books, and I found Missandei and where she came into the story, and I guess I made choices for her, and I thought, well, this character is a child in the books and I was a woman, so I had to kind of just make choices but that still carried the essence of that person that I was reading about online, and I just tried to be as prepared as possible, and that's kind of like all I can do. The other thing with Missandei was they told me, they were like, oh no, we just want you to do a standard British accent, it doesn't have to be. And I thought, you know what, this woman is from a different part of the realm and she's speaking another language. Maybe I need to try and get like an accent that is like it's like an accented English. And so I sort of prepared this accent that, to be honest with you, I mean, I have no idea what it was even now. But I went into the audition and then we did the scene, and Robert, who was the casting director, working for Nina Gold with Nina Gold, was like, oh, that was great, that was really cool, but you know what, they haven't really quite decided whether Missandei has an accent or not. And I was like, well, I thought, yes, this is like the joy of being prepared. And so I did another read with this accent that I'd made up, and I walked out and I was like, great. And I sort of just let it go, and and then the rest is history. But for me, it's like preparation like was so important. And it meant that like I could be confident when they sort of did this other thing. I sort of considered all the possibilities. And so, yeah, and sometimes it's as simple as like doing a self-tape at home with your mum in the kitchen and then sending it off, and then hope, like you're just like, oh, okay, well, I did this thing. And you just kind of wait to hear. And yeah, and it's very, everything is really different. I mean, for Fast and Furious, a lot of those scenes were like really action scenes, which are quite hard to put on self-tape, like that's hard to do. And it's like a lot of stage directions and you're going, like you're crazy, or whatever the, scene is. And we just had to just try something. And yeah, sometimes the kind of preparation, there's not really time for, or it's not very clear what preparation you can do. So I guess for me, it was like, okay, learn the lines, get the accent right, or get the whatever right, and then just throw it at the wall and see what sticks and see if they like it. I don't know. It's like, it's different for everything, every audition.
We have a question here from Pietro Barba from our LA campus. Pietro, we've enabled you to start your microphone. What is your question for Nathalie?
Hello, Natalie. So my question is, what would you give an advice to a young director that, let's say, doesn't have that much budget, but that would love to have an established actor on their short film? Like, if that could be an actual possibility, what would that take? Like, how could that ever happen?
I think it happens though. Like I think it's I understand why you asked that question, because I think that there comes a point where people feel kind of like unattainable almost, but I really do think that there are many actors who, you know, who want to discover and work with up and coming talent. You know, I've definitely done some shorts, and because I just liked the idea and I liked the person, that I was like, wow, you're really interesting and cool. And, you know, and it came, both the short films I've done, like they came through my agent and they were like, hey, we know this might be a long shot, but does Nathalie would she do a short film? And, you know, to be fair, it's been a couple of years since I've done one, but it was such a fun experience. And to be able to work with someone who, yeah, is kind of starting out in their career. And I really, yeah, I personally think that there are much more, there are many actors who will want to enjoy that process of working with new filmmakers. But I think if you're just, I think you just have to try. You just have to like shoot your shot, you know. And you know, who is like the dream casting, and then shoot your shot. You know, that's what all they can say is no. And then you can maybe have like a list of people that, you know, you would also love to have, and then reach out to them too and see what you get back, because who knows, like who knows, who knows. And another thing as well, like you might even make this great thing with a unknown actor, and you know, you guys it gets really well recognized and really critically acclaimed for this short film that you've entered into a festival, and now you're on this journey together too. So, you know, there's kind of, yeah, benefits to that as well. But I always just say, like, what's the best thing? Shoot your shot, let that person know why you want them, why they are your perfect casting. You know, if your script is strong and your idea is strong and your vision is strong, I think people really respond to visuals as well. And I really enjoy like mood boards and things like that, just to give me an idea of the tone and the colors and the worlds that you kind of want to create. And if you have any previous work, like let people know what you've done and show them what you can do. And that's all you can do at that point, you know. And yeah, maybe someone will be like, hey, that's great, and get involved. Now you're making, I'm like, I need to do some short films now. Like, I need to get involved. It's been a minute.
Thank you for the encouragement. We have a question here from Bangiwi Kapolo from our LA campus. We've enabled you to start your microphone. What is your question for Nathalie?
Hello.
Hi.
Yay. Okay. So my question is, you know, after Game of Thrones, was it hard to like other kinds of roles? Like, you know, obviously that launched you a little bit in the public eye, but was it hard to break away from Missandei, who's just so iconic, and you know, everyone kind of knew you in that way, and get to these other amazing roles and these other really complex, interesting roles that you've done so far?
I mean, there is always a period of time after you finish something where people will only see you as that thing. Like, that's just inevitable. I think I was slightly in a privileged position where I had this other thing, like I was doing the Fast and Furious franchise. So I was already kind of established in this other thing when I finished Game of Thrones, which is quite a unique not so common position to be in, I imagine. And so I kind of had that other thing, and it kind of happened not too long afterwards. So, or it came out like not too long afterwards. I can't remember the timeline exactly, but I just remember I had some time after the show though, where I was quite, I was in this, like I said, privileged position where I knew that I had that thing coming up, and I could really take a moment to decide, what do I want to do? You know, what kind of parts do I want to do? I'd had a whole meeting with my team, and I'd said, let's try and send these kinds of scripts and these kinds of characters and just see what's around. And, you know, and that is an incredibly unique position to be in. You know, I was sort of like, you know, financially as an actor, I was like, great, I don't have to worry too much for a while, you know. I can take some time where it's not a matter of like, oh, okay, I need to now get money to live. Like, it was, I had time, and so I really made the most of it. And I guess I just read a lot of things, and put myself on tape and just sort of seeing what was out there. And then it was funny actually, because there was one point where I did get quite disheartened, because there was a couple of things that I really liked and I got quite close to, and it didn't work out. And I was just like, like, people, is it because they can only see me as this one thing? And then while I sort of got a bit down, suddenly this opportunity kind of came out of nowhere, and it was something that I'd auditioned for months ago, and it kind of just like came back around, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is amazing, because I thought that had gone away and that I hadn't got that thing. And I'm talking like 5 months ago I'd auditioned for it, so it wasn't like, oh, a few weeks ago. It was like I'd forgotten that I'd even auditioned for it. And so the fact that came back around was like amazing. And it was like everything that I had been manifesting. You know, I tend to like decide the things that I want for the next, I don't know, year or 6 months. And I'd been craving all of these things. I was like, I want to work back home. I'd been living out of a suitcase for however many years. I was like, I want to be in London. I want to challenge myself with an American role. I want to have a role that is more of a lead or supporting lead, where I have more responsibility. And then 4 Weddings and a Funeral kind of came back around, and I was like, it's perfect. It was shooting 40 minutes in the car from my house. I was like, this is amazing. And I got to, and it was just so, it kind of just happened so organically as well. And I, yeah, it was a strange time, because I really at one point was like, it's like people just, you know, is it because what is it? Is it because they can't see me anything like as anything but Miss Sunday? Is it too soon? But yeah, I guess I kind of just gave in to and just go, okay, you gotta let it go and just see what happens. You know, that's the thing about this life. It's, you know, there's no guarantees, and you kind of have to let go into it a bit. And I, you know, when I was saying before how I count my lucky stars, well, they were shining on me then. And so I was, yeah, that happened, and it was amazing. So.
Thank you. We have a question here from Leo Newmark from our New York campus. Leo, we've enabled you to start your microphone. What is your question for Nathalie?
Hi, thank you, Nathalie, for talking with us. I was wondering about scores. Like, do you ever listen to scores? Because it's actually an interesting idea when you're listening to that music. It's music essentially written to complement your acting and the film, and the composer's looking at your face, how you're acting, how you're behaving, and it's a very like personal and I guess sort of intimate act to sort of write music for someone's acting. So I'm wondering like what's your experience with composers, like listening to the music?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the music is so important, and it really helps amplify what the actors are already doing and the director is already doing. And you know, when that's wrong, you really, and it can really make something, it can really, I don't want to say ruin it, but like change it in a way that might not always be what you expected. And I can't really think I've had that experience really, but you know, I just remember with Game of Thrones specifically, like the score just, you know, it just added to the kind of heartbreak of all the, you know, the warm fuzzy feelings you want and the sort of epicness of it. And I do listen to the score because I really notice when it, like generally, like not necessarily with my own work, but when I'm watching other movies, I definitely really, I notice when it doesn't work for me. Like, you know, obviously some people will listen to it and think it's amazing, but I definitely notice when I'm like, oh, I'm not sure about this. Do you know what I really hate is when the music is trying to tell you how to feel, but it's not necessarily being reflected on screen. Like that's a bit of a pet peeve of mine, and that happens sometimes. But generally, I have been lucky enough to have been scored beautifully, and generally just felt like those composers really added something and amplified what I was doing, and you know, so I've been really lucky in that respect. But yeah, I think I definitely listen to the score, and I think it's an incredibly important part of filmmaking and really telling a story. So
Excellent. We have a question here from Amber Martin. Amber, we've enabled you to start your microphone. What is your question for Nathalie?
Hi, Nathalie. Thank you so much for your time today. I was just going to ask you, do you have the same creative process or approach when you're building a character and taking on a role? Like I know you said you like to play badass women, so do you kind of start by viewing them the same, or do you do something totally different every time?
Well, I think there is something different that happens. I mean, it really depends on the story and who they are and what their story is. You know, like my character in Game of Thrones is badass in a different way to how badass my character is in Fast and Furious, or you know, like they're both ultimately, yeah. I mean, you can play badass, whatever that is, but really, it's the real person and their real, very real qualities and complexities that make them badass. So I just will just try and treat the person or the character and prepare that character as, you know, and just try and identify their qualities and their flaws or whatever, and try and create a whole person. Because you know, it's like sometimes when people say, oh yeah, like she's tough, like she's a badass, and you're like, yeah, but what is tough? Like, is tough how she stands? Is tough how she talks? Is it, yes, the action or the fights, yes, but also I think it's in the things that she does and the choices that she makes that makes someone tough, like against adversity, like what is their reaction to things. So, you know, I try to just treat each one as an individual person. And when you play the truth of a character, if they're supposed to be a badass, then that will come out, you know, and sometimes they're not a badass, and like that's okay too, you know. But I definitely just like enjoy creating women that are, but you know, maybe that's my next challenge, where I create one that's less so.
We have a question here from Shanae Lewis. Shanae, we've enabled you to start your microphone. What is your question for Nathalie?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Oh, okay. So glad to see you. I just wanted to ask, when you first started out in the industry, were there times where you got discouraged along the way? And like, if you did, how did you bring yourself up again and keep going?
Yes, many times. How did I keep going? I mean, I have a wonderful support system. I have people that really believed in me, and I'm lucky enough that those people always kind of rallied around me, even when I didn't necessarily believe in myself in the way that I should or could at the time. So, you know, I'm incredibly grateful to many people for that support. And I think I had to just kind of give myself, at one point I had to, I was making the decision about whether to go back to school and do a degree and try and, like, you know, have something else. And the reason why I made that choice was because I was like, I'm a smart person. Like, I can do other things that I enjoy. I have lots of interests. You know, acting is like, you know, a passion. But I thought, do I need to just, you know, have keep myself, you know, focused and doing something that was also another creative outlet, to be fair. It was still a very artistic thing. And then what happened specifically was, like, Game of Thrones happened. I was very much like, I'm going back to school and blah, blah, blah. And then that happened. And my life, it's sort of like, I feel that fate just decided that now wasn't the time. And then, you know, there have been other times where I've been kind of discouraged and think, I feel like the parts that I'm being asked to audition for are just all really, like, you know, is this how people see me? And, you know, it can really mess with your head and your self-esteem and things like that. And then I guess I have had to work really hard at positive affirmation and, like, telling myself that, you know, I decide who I am, and I am in control of me and my career, and, like, the things that I will do and that I won't do. And, you know, and there's like a confidence that comes with that, even when you're, like, really discouraged and you're like, no, I need to figure out exactly what it is that I want from my career and from, you know, the parts that I do. And if this isn't the thing, if this isn't the thing that works out for me, I was like, the idea of giving it up, like, obviously breaks my heart, but, like, I'm a smart woman. I can do lots of other things. There are lots of other things that I'm passionate about. And my life, I think, has sort of taught me that, you know, you have to give yourself time, and that just because things aren't happening in the speed that you think it is, or in comparison to someone else's timeline, you know, like, doesn't mean that it won't or can't happen. And maybe you just need to find a different way to it. And I think there's a lot of solace in that thinking, because you just can go, okay, you know, before I get all panicked and, you know, start being unkind to myself with my words and my thoughts, what can I do that is proactive and positive, as opposed to, you know, the opposite. So I don't know, like, yeah, there's no guarantees in this game, but I think that the way that we speak to ourselves and the way that we, you know, encourage ourselves really matters. And like I said, also having a support system and a community, because 9 times out of 10, a lot of your peers are all going through a similar thing, and you can find comfort and, you know, with those people, and take those risks together, and, you know, bounce ideas off the wall. I also think, like, now, like, young people, with all the technology that we have now just at our fingertips, like, people are making movies on short films that are like, on short films on mobile phones, which are making it into festivals, you know, and launching whole careers. And I think there is also something really great about going, okay, like, all right, maybe I'll write something. Maybe I'll get my friend who I know does sound, or my friend that does cameras. My next door neighbor is a cameraman, which I didn't know when I bought the house, but I was like, great, like, maybe if I'm like, let's get this guy and we can just go and shoot something. I don't know, like, it's just about keeping proactive and trying to generate something, I don't know, either within yourself or literally physically with a piece of work. So
Nathalie, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Tova. I know that she has a few questions before we close out.
Okay.
Nathalie.
Yes.
So good to have you back. What do you think is your quality that contributed the most to your success?
I don't know. Something that that's such a that's a question. I think that. Do you mean as like a person or an actor or just like anything? Because I think, okay. Yeah, I think that, you know, I'm a very determined person, and I think that I'm sort of a hard worker, and I'm really determined, and I guess that I'm just like willing to get, you know, in the trenches and roll my sleeves up and graft, you know. So I think that's probably what's kept me going. I mean, in terms of as an actor, I don't know. I mean, I kind of hope that there's something that people can connect to in my performances. Something that someone has said to me before is they're like, oh, you know, it's very clear that you have a strength about you that's really, you can see on camera. And I was like, oh, really? Thank you. That's like a huge compliment. But they were like, there's also this vulnerability behind it. And that, I was like, that was a really nice, lovely compliment. Like that people have kind of said to me before. And I guess if that's the thing that means that people connect to what I'm doing, then I'm very grateful that that's coming through. But yeah, I don't know really. I think just like my ability to kind of like just keep grafting and try anything until I find where I need to be, then maybe that's it.
Amazing. And now I have a fun question for you, because I watched all the, you know, all the episodes, of course, of Die Hard, and I laughed a lot. And but I want to ask you, because it looks like when you came in to be in the school, you already were kind of badass a little bit. And then Kevin at the end finds basically all the right moves. So is the message is that we all basically have it in us to be action heroes if we just had the confidence, the attitude, and doing it for somebody we love?
Yeah. I stand by that message. Absolutely. I think you know, this saying that not all heroes wear capes, you know, I think that we can all be heroes in different ways. But yeah, you just have to have the courage to kind of go for it. And I love that kind of through that message through the piece, is that, you know, Jordan's just like, I've got to do the work. I've got to prove myself. I'm gonna, you know, and where Kevin is kind of like at times making excuses and kind of doubting everything, you know, and there's that scene that they have and he's like, you're right. I just need to, like, in a way, like take the bull by the horns, or something less, you know, I don't know, another phrase for that, but, you know, I think that decision to, you know, go for the thing, you know, makes us all capable of anything. And if you want to be an action hero, then I guess you can do that too, if you put your mind to it. And he does.
Commitment at the end, really.
Yes, yes.
You know, just as your commitment to being an actor and preparing and so on and so forth. I want to thank you very, very much for taking time and really giving us the benefit of your skills and experience, and parted to the students. And we all really, really appreciated that you took the time and the effort to come and help.
Well, it's my pleasure, honestly. When I saw the kind of like talent and amazing people that have been on come and spoken with you guys and been on this Q&A, I was like, they want me? Okay, great. I mean, I was incredibly flattered and excited to be included. So, you know, I feel like I still have so much to learn, and I'm, you know, we talk about experience. I'm like, oh, I feel like I have so many things to still experience, but
well, you'll come back. You'll come back.
I hope so. It's been really nice, and hopefully, like, when the world isn't sick anymore, we could do it in person and not over Zoom. But yeah, I really hope. I get so excited of talent that's coming into the industry, because, you know, I think this year has shown us that the world is having a shake up, and like, it's like you guys that are going to be the ones to like take hold of that shift that's happening. So it's exciting, and I'm happy that I could talk to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we wish you all the best.
And you stay well and safe, everyone.
And we hope to see you again. And we're certainly looking forward to seeing all your work in the future. Thank you.
Bye.